Hey everybody, this is Perch. Who wants some sexy villains? Anyway, this reader is listener. See, I'm wired. I'm wired just to say reader. I don't know. This listener writes in with a suggestion, and hey, the underlying kind of tone to all of this is that you know, as much as we went through this period, and frankly, we're still in it, of beware the male gaze of our heroes and heroines. You know, we okay. The best way to put this is it's hard not to notice that as we've continuously talked about, the female form is not what people should be focusing on, and all body shapes are positive, and just kind of all these different aspects to sexy comic women, sexy female characters. I'm now hung up, by the way, in She-Hulk. There's this bit where the characters going in. I think it was the second to last episode. I don't remember. My daughters keep asking about it because they don't understand it, and they're basically implying that the angry male misogynist characters, they always call them females. Like, make sure you call them females, not women. And what bothered my daughter about it is she points out, she's like, well, if the issue is that there's a male in the character, female, and that somehow it's misogyny to have the word male inside of a word that means woman, then women also has men in it. So you really aren't improving anything if that's your argument. And it's an English word. Why are we complaining about English words? And then I went down this long rabbit hole with her about, but what is a woman? Because I was being a smartass that night, and then my daughter got kind of pissed, and it's like, she's like, I'm a woman. I should do that video, by the way, recording this whole dialogue, because she gets super pissed off just with the whole lack of logic in the entire thing. But anyway, my point here is that there's been a lot of focus and attention on women characters or female characters and kind of their attire and what they're dressed. Are they sexy or not sexy? And it's wrong to lead with sex appeal and everything else. But we continue to have male characters in skin tight spandex, and it's perfectly okay to say, look at Nightwing's ass. Look at that ass. And the argument often comes, it's the silliest argument back, which is, well, after years of exploiting the female form, it's okay that we get to make some exploitive comments about Nightwing. That's only fair. Except that's not how. That doesn't make any sense. If you have, if somebody goes out and murders a bunch of people, you don't get to say, well, the people in Texas murdered a bunch of people, so it's only fair that Florida gets to murder something like that. That's not how it works. If something's wrong, you don't try and balance it out by doing more of it from the other direction. That doesn't make any sense. So the entire argument falls apart. Anyway, to me, the entire conversation comes down to it's superhero, it's idealized kind of Olympian level, body physiques. And yeah, they're going to be the peak of human. It's kind of inherent to superhero. If you were doing a slice of life book about running a boba tea shop and everyone was a smoking hot model, men and women, that would also be weird. Wouldn't fit the genre. But when your genre is superheroes, the character, the body form is going to, anyway, whatever. Let's get to this mail. I'm just going to say I've wasted enough time, but it's all relevant. Hello, Mr. Perch. Hope you're having a good day. My apologies for the sensational title, but sexy catches my eyes more than dynamic. Anyway, do you think comics needs more sexy, dynamic villains in their stories? I got the idea while listening to another comic book channel's podcast, How Dare You, from a little while ago discussing Dark Crisis, and briefly mentioned how part of the reason it's not doing so well, aside from the obvious, is that Pariah isn't a sexy villain, like the Batman Who Laughs. Huh. All right. Of course, they meant how he didn't have the best design, powers, personality, mindset, or overall style like the Batman Who Laughs does. This got me thinking that comic book stories, whether it's the big two or the rest, absolutely need sexy, dynamic villains. It goes further than just having a good cool factor. By giving them distinguished mindsets, goals, styles for how they operate, you instantly have an incredible variety of characters, stories, and conflicts for heroes to face, because not every villain wants the same thing or does things the same way. For example, Doctor Doom, obviously one of the sexiest And I'm kidding. I'm kidding. For example, Doctor Doom wants to take over the Earth like Darkseid, but how they go about it and why they do it and what they envision for the Earth are worlds apart from each other. Details and nuance. What do you think the next big? Wait, who do you think the next big, sexy, dynamic villains are in Marvel or DC in general? Would love to hear your thoughts on this one day. Thanks for your time. Have a good day. I mean, there's a reason why Punchline is popular. Now, I don't think Punchline is going to survive the decades test of time. I don't think Punchline is going to become the next Killer Croc or Clayface. But there's a chance. But part of the reason is that the design, the style of the character is pretty, it's eye catching. It's also sexy, and her methods and her style are at least unique enough. Now, what kind of remains to be seen is like she's playing on kind of social media paranoia and behavior and kind of new tech, aspects to her. And so I think that may age like milk, but we'll see. It's at least something a little different right now. But Punchline is kind of a sexy, dynamic villain. I think Pariah. I don't think that Pariah not looking sexy is an issue. I think that the motives behind Dark Crisis is an issue. If it's hard to kind of suss out what's Pariah after. I mean, he's after kind of restoring the multiverse or some Dark Crisis. The problem I think with Dark Crisis is that it feels like, oh, we're doing some shit with the multiverse again. That's the fundamental problem. Oh, and like some of the villains are kind of become darkness controlled zombies, or I mean, it just feels like it feels exhausting. It feels like once again it got a villain and he's got some kind of tragic backstory. He wants everything to be happy for himself because he's motivated by some shit. I mean, it's hard to embrace it. We've seen it before a lot, and so we're and then this kind of it's got Darkseid and Deathstroke and all these other characters in there, but they're taken over by the darkness, so they just kind of run and kind of clubber on people. I mean, Darkseid as a super threatening big villain is it's basically he's resorting to kind of just jumping at things and smashing stuff with his fists. That's what we're getting in Dark Crisis, and not terribly interesting. All the villains are kind of just like, I get you. And if you read that entire series, it can kind of be summed up as, our big heroes that everybody knows have disappeared, and the other heroes are trying to kind of pull shit together, but none of them really know what they're doing. And they kind of suck at it, and then the villains are slowly infecting each other, like becoming kind of darkness zombified villains, and then they're all going to just kind of run at the Hall of Justice and attack. And in some ways, it has a similar feeling to the the thing that went the Perpetua stuff before Dark Metal, where again it's like here come a bunch of kind of Perpetua villains, and they're going to attack the Hall of Justice, and people are going to make their stand there. It's just we've seen this before. We've seen it recently before. And so I don't think sexy has much to do with it. But I do think, I mean, the funny part about comics, and it's not that funny, really, it's that if the character, if it's almost a cliche. You could see it on my YouTube thumbnails. If you put a character in a bikini on the thumbnail, and you're like, hey, in this issue, it's, the characters run around in bikinis, and they're sexy, people buy it. It's just it's like, why does somebody was on Twitter was arguing with me? Is like, I don't see why they keep giving J. Scott Campbell work. I'm like, because his covers sell, you dumbass. Because I mean, what? It's not that hard to figure out. He draws pretty girls pretty. Like what's complicated about this? I think that whether it's villains, whether it's heroes. Again, this genre of superheroes, it needs attractive, people, men and women, or females, as the incels would say. I'm still hung up on that. By the way, the other funny one that I have with my daughter is that, there's Georgia, the Georgia peach. If you watched a lot of shows filmed in Georgia, at the very end they have like a little peach and they go Georgia, and and my daughter's convinced it's a pear, not a peach. I do not know why, and I think she knows at this point. When she was young, she identified it as a pear, so she'd be like, "It's Georgia pear," and then we'd be like, "No, it's anyway." That's a kind of a dumb thing, but that's been an argument in the old Perch household for quite a while. I think villains, not just in appearance of sexy, but also, as you alluded to, in motivations, in style, in powers, in the threat. It needs to be compelling. It's why comic books that feature like various kind of faceless versions of the Proud Boys picketing something or beating up, minorities in the subway, and the hero has to come in and clear them out. Nobody gives a shit about that threat. It's not a sexy threat. Yes, it is the world outside our window at times. Yes, you do have, racist dicks out there causing trouble for people. But most comic readers do not want to see Superman dealing with those people, or Wonder Woman, or any superhero dealing with the Proud Boys or Antifa. It might make for a fun comic book once to see, Superman or somebody like that. It's like, hey, we got this riot in downtown Portland. People are trying to lock police in their precinct and then burn it down like they did in Seattle. In comes Superman, just mows the shit out of everyone, throws them all into the ocean, flies away. I mean, that'd be kind of fun as a comic, but you wouldn't want to see that over and over. They present no threat to Superman. Superman shouldn't be fighting Antifa. Or, he could fight white supremacists when they're the Red Skull. When they're just like, some guy named Phil hanging out at the Walmart, it's not an exciting battle. It's not a sexy battle, either in appearance or in motives. So you just have to, the comics, and this is why I love the movie Unbreakable. It kind of defines, there's a moment where Samuel Jackson is explaining kind of the bigger than life hero, the caricature of the villain, and kind of these, archetypical superhero battles and what it means to be, in this universe. And it's for a movie, it's well said. That is what this genre is at the end of the day. There's lots of different ways to tell that story. There's lots of different characters you can use, lots of different motivations. As you say, Doctor Doom and Darkseid taking over Earth, they're doing it for entirely different reasons. They're going to have different motives and different ways it plays out. Mr. Freeze, as a lot of people have commented on Jerry Duggan's shitty One Bad Day Mr. Freeze book. It's interesting when Mr. Freeze has this dynamic of trying to save his wife, and it bends him into a criminal and causes him to basically take shortcuts. One of the things about being a hero is that you do the right thing even when it's hard. And with the kind of this new rendition of Mr. Freeze, we learn that actually he likes his wife all frozen because, she was too much of an independent woman, and, she was stepping out all the time and he didn't know where he was. And plus she was a big nag and, shopped and bitched and all the rest. So, it's better that she's frozen because now he can keep his thumb on her. It erases the sexiness, the uniqueness, the detail of kind of that dynamic of the villain. Mr. Freeze is better. All characters are better when they're complex, when they have detail and nuance and a lot of pieces to them. And so when you erase that, the character becomes flat. That's what we have. So anyway, thank you very much for the mail. I'll make sure to put some super spicy cover to this video on the thumbnail. But make your villains, and for that matter your heroes, make them sexy. Make them interesting. Make them dynamic. Make them pop off the page. Sometimes with their boobs. Thanks for listening.